Alabama just held one of the biggest pro days of the entire 2025 NFL draft cycle. Cameras everywhere, scouts from every team in the league, national media covering every single throw like it was the Super Bowl. And right in the middle of all that attention stood Ty Simpson, the Alabama quarterback who some analysts have been hyping as a potential top 10 pick. But here's where things get interesting. You know who didn't show up? The Cleveland Browns. Not just any representative either. We're talking about the people who actually matter. General Manager Andrew Barry wasn't there. Head coach Todd Monken, nowhere to be found. Nobody from the Browns' decision-making brain trust bothered to make the trip to Tuscaloosa. Now, this is the same Cleveland Browns franchise that's picking second overall in the 2025 NFL Draft. The same organization that desperately, urgently needs a franchise quarterback. The same team that's been linked to Ty Simpson for months because of the coaching connection between his father and Todd Monken from their Southern Miss days. And they couldn't even be bothered to show up. Meanwhile, on that exact same day, Ohio State was holding their pro day in Columbus, and Cleveland did send representatives, but not the heavy hitters. They sent executive assistants Glenn Cook and Catherine Hickman. With all due respect to those individuals, they're not the people making franchise-altering decisions about the future of the quarterback position. Let's be clear about something. When you're a team picking second overall and the entire league knows you need a quarterback, you don't get to be mysterious. You don't get to play hide and seek. This isn't poker where you can bluff your way through. Teams in that position show up to everything, every throw, every drill, every handshake, because missing one single detail could cost you your entire future. So skipping Tuscaloosa, that's not strategy. That's not playing it close to the vest. That's a decision. That's the Cleveland Browns saying without actually saying it out loud. Yeah, we're good on that. And you know what makes this moment so powerful? It just crushed the last hope of a very loud, very determined group of people who have spent the entire offseason doing absolutely everything in their power to avoid saying one specific name. The anybody but Shedeur movement has been going strong in Cleveland for months now. And if you've been paying even the slightest bit of attention, you've watched this play out in real time like some kind of exhausting reality show that refuses to end. Every single week, it seemed like there was a new savior being proposed, a new alternative being pushed, a new reason why the Browns shouldn't take the quarterback with the best resume, the most production, and the clearest path to being ready on day one. First, it was Malik Willis. Remember that one. The Browns should trade for Malik Willis. He just needs the right system. He's got all the tools. Never mind the fact that he couldn't even lock down the starting job over Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee. That little detail got conveniently brushed aside. Then came Kyler Murray. The Cardinals might be willing to move him. Go get a proven guy who's already done it at the NFL level. Cleveland didn't even blink. No call, no movement. Nothing. Anthony Richardson became the next option. Elite athletic upside. Fix the injury concerns and you've got a superstar. Except Richardson completed just 44% of his passes at Florida and has already dealt with significant injuries in his brief NFL career. But somehow that was supposed to be the safer pick. Kirk Cousins got floated. Tua Tagovailoa's name came up. Every single rumor, every possible trade scenario, every what-if situation that could possibly keep Cleveland from drafting Shedeur Sanders got amplified and repeated until people started treating these ideas like they were actually realistic. And every single time, Andrew Barry looked at these proposals and essentially said, "No thanks." Not once, not twice, every single time. So then the narrative shifted to the future. Okay, fine. They're not trading for anyone this year. They're waiting for 2026. Fernando Mendoza from Cal is going to be the #1 pick next year. The Browns should just tank this season and position themselves for that. But here's the massive problem with that logic. Cleveland is picking second overall right now. You don't pass on that opportunity hopping things magically line up better 12 months from now. Because the only way you're picking first overall next year is if everything goes catastrophically wrong this season. And if your entire plan requires your season to collapse before it even starts, that's not a strategy. That's a disaster waiting to happen. And trust me, players in that locker room can feel when the organization is planning for failure. You start signaling that you're waiting for next year, you've already lost the room, and probably your job too. So the 2026 theory wasn't strategy, it was avoidance. It was people trying to find any justification that didn't require them to say the obvious name out loud. Which brings us to Ty Simpson, the final hope, the last card on the table, the one remaining option that could theoretically keep the anybody but Shedeur movement alive. And on paper, sure, it looked decent enough. Alabama quarterback, SEC experience, good size, strong arm, football family background, all the boxes that scouts traditionally love to check. But then you actually turn on the tape, and things start to get a little shaky. Let's talk about who Ty Simpson actually is as a prospect, because the resume doesn't match the hype that's been building around him. Simpson started exactly one full season at Alabama. One. Before 2024, he sat behind Jalen Milroe for 2 full years. And let's be completely honest about something. Milroe was good. He was productive. He helped Alabama win games. But he wasn't some unbeatable, once-in-a-generation talent that nobody could possibly challenge. So the question becomes unavoidable. If Ty Simpson was truly that elite, if he really had everything you need to be a top 10 NFL quarterback, why wasn't he on the field sooner? Why did it take 2 full years of sitting behind a player who, while solid, wasn't exactly setting the world on fire? That question matters. And it matters even more when you look at what actually happened when Simpson finally got his chance in 2024. There were definitely flashes. Absolutely. Some games looked solid. You could see the arm talent. You could see moments where everything clicked and you understood why people got excited about the potential. But there were also significant stretches, especially late in the season, where things got messy. Reads looked slow, timing was off, confidence appeared to dip. And yes, reports indicate he was dealing with injuries down the stretch, but that doesn't erase the concern. If anything, it adds another layer to it, because availability matters too. And then came the moment that really separated everything. The moment that confirmed what the tape had been whispering all season long. January 1st, 2025, the Rose Bowl, Alabama versus Cal, Ty Simpson versus Fernando Mendoza. This wasn't just another game. This was a preview of the future happening on a national stage. Big stakes, head-to-head spotlight, 2 quarterbacks being evaluated for the NFL draft going directly at each other. And what actually happened? Fernando Mendoza looked like he was operating on a completely different level. Calm, accurate, going through his progressions like a veteran, delivering throws that translate directly to the NFL. He was everything you want to see from a quarterback prospect performing under pressure. Meanwhile, Ty Simpson struggled. The offense stalled. The rhythm never clicked. Alabama got handled convincingly, and the gap between the 2 performances wasn't small. It wasn't, well, one guy had a slightly better day. It was clear. 2 quarterbacks on the same stage, completely different outcomes. And here's the thing. That game mattered. Not because one rough performance suddenly erases a player's entire future, but because it confirmed what the full season had already been showing. This wasn't new information. This was confirmation. Ty Simpson has tools. Nobody's denying that. The arm is there. The size checks out. The flashes are real enough to keep people interested. But let's keep it completely real. He's still raw. This is not a plug-and-play quarterback. This is not someone you draft in the top 5 and expect him to walk in week 1 ready to run your offense like a 10-year veteran. That's not the situation you're getting. He needs time, he needs reps, he needs development, and that's perfectly fine for the right team in the right situation. But Cleveland's sitting at number 2, needing answers immediately, facing organizational pressure from every possible direction. That's a completely different conversation. And the people closest to Simpson seem to understand that better than anyone. When media members showed up to Alabama's Pro Day, they started asking head coach Kalen DeBoer the big question. Not a soft one, not a vague one, a direct, specific question that matters. Can Ty Simpson come in day one and be the guy for a team like Cleveland? Can he step into that situation and immediately stop the quarterback carousel that's been spinning for 25 years? That's the moment. That's where college coaches usually go into full promotional mode. Because let's be honest, coaches love to hype their guys. It helps the program. It helps with recruiting. It makes everybody look good. And it costs them absolutely nothing to go big with the praise. So what did Kalen DeBoer do? He got careful. Not negative, not dismissive, but careful. He talked about Simpson competing. He mentioned work ethic. He highlighted intangibles, all good things, all positive. But you know what he didn't say? He didn't say yes. He didn't stamp it. He didn't give that definitive answer that says, "This is your guy, take him and don't think twice." And that silence, that hesitation, that tells you absolutely everything you need to know. Because when a coach truly believes in a player at that level, they don't hold back. Think about how Dabo Swinney talked about Deshaun Watson coming out of Clemson. He called Watson the Michael Jordan of football. Was it dramatic? Absolutely. Was it over the top? No question. But that's what conviction sounds like. That's what belief looks like when there's zero doubt in your mind. Kalen DeBoer didn't give anyone that energy. He gave a cautious answer, the kind that keeps doors open, the kind that doesn't make promises he's not sure he can keep. And in draft season, cautious usually means uncertain. So now let's connect all these dots, because at this point, it's not even subtle anymore. The Cleveland Browns are sitting at the 2nd overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Not 10th, not 15th, number 2. This is the kind of pick that changes everything. This is the kind of pick that defines careers, determines futures, and either saves jobs or ends them. And let's not forget the context here. The Browns have been stuck in quarterback chaos for decades. Since they returned to the league in 1999, they've started 30 different quarterbacks. 30. At this point, it's not even a carousel anymore. It's a full amusement park ride that nobody actually wants to stay on. So this pick is not optional. This is not experimental. This is survival. And the options are sitting right there in front of them, with completely different levels of clarity. On one side, you've got Shedeur Sanders, 3-year starter, over 10,000 passing yards, 88 touchdowns against just 25 interceptions, 70% completion rate, big game experience, composure under pressure, leadership qualities, football pedigree. That's a resume, that's production, that's consistency over multiple seasons. On the other side, Ty Simpson, 1 year starting, inconsistent tape, injury concerns, development needed, and a head coach who, when directly asked if he's ready for day one, didn't fully commit to that answer. Those are not the same level of prospect, not even close. So when people act surprised that Cleveland skipped Alabama's Pro Day, it's like, what exactly are we doing here? Andrew Barry is not guessing. Todd Monken is not experimenting. These are professionals with their careers on the line. They're not skipping Ty Simpson's workout because they're playing mind games. They're skipping it because they already did the homework. They watched the tape, they studied the progression, they looked at the timeline, they evaluated the risk, and they made a decision. And here's the key part that some people are still missing. That decision wasn't made yesterday. This has been locked in for weeks, maybe even months. Everything you've been hearing since, all the debates, all the what-ifs, all the alternative names being thrown around, that's outside noise. That's the conversation trying to catch up to an internal decision that's already been finalized. But this goes even deeper than just talent evaluation, because this isn't only about who throws the better football. This is about timing. This is about pressure. This is about alignment inside the building. Jimmy Haslam is 70 years old. He's owned this team since 2012 and he's still chasing real playoff success. He's not in rebuild mode anymore. He doesn't have another 5-year window to wait and see if things work out eventually. He wants results now. Todd Monken is a first-year head coach. And let's be brutally honest about something. First-year coaches don't get patience in the NFL. You don't get 5 years to figure things out. You get a window and it closes fast. Monken needs wins immediately. He needs an offense that functions right away. He cannot afford to draft a quarterback who needs 2 full seasons just to get comfortable. Andrew Barry is in his 6th year as general manager. He's had some hits, he's had some misses, but the quarterback position is still unresolved. And in the NFL, that's the one thing you absolutely cannot miss on. You can recover from a bad receiver pick, a questionable defensive signing, even a coaching mistake. But if you miss on the quarterback, especially when you're picking 2nd overall, that's your job. That's your career. So now all 3 of them, owner, coach, GM, are sitting in the exact same reality. They don't need potential in 2027. They don't need maybe. They need production right now. They need someone who can step in week 1 and give them a legitimate chance to win football games. And when you look at it through that specific lens, the answer becomes very simple. That's not Ty Simpson, that's Shedeur Sanders. Now let's talk about the uncomfortable part, because this is where things get messy and people start getting defensive. There's been a very loud segment of Cleveland's fan base, and even some voices in the national media, that have been doing absolutely everything possible to avoid landing on that conclusion. Every week a new name, every week a new theory, every week a new reason why it shouldn't be Shedeur. And if you've been watching closely over the last 4 months, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. It's not random. It's not coincidence. It's a deliberate search. A constant, relentless search for any alternative that lets certain people avoid saying the obvious out loud. Every single time a new option popped up, it was like people hit the upgrade button instantly. No hesitation, no context, just immediate hype. Malik Willis suddenly became a franchise quarterback candidate. Never mind that he couldn't lock down a starting job over Ryan Tannehill. That part got quietly pushed aside. Anthony Richardson became the high-upside answer, even though he completed 44% of his passes in college and has already dealt with injuries in the NFL. But somehow that was supposed to be safer. And then Ty Simpson, 1 year as a starter, inconsistent results, still figuring things out. And boom, now he's getting talked about like a top 10 lock. It's like every time a new name showed up, the volume went up, the expectations jumped, and somehow the standards got lower at the same time. And the common thread, none of those guys are Shedeur Sanders. That's the pattern, that's the constant. So naturally, the question becomes unavoidable. Why is there so much resistance to drafting a quarterback with that kind of resume? Because if this was purely about football, if this was genuinely just about evaluating prospects based on production, consistency, and readiness, the conversation wouldn't be this complicated. Now, to be fair, not all the concerns are manufactured. Some of them are legitimate, and they deserve to be discussed honestly. Yes, his father is Deion Sanders. And sure, some people have questions about outside influence, media attention, all of that. That's a fair conversation to have. Yes, the offensive line at Colorado struggled. Shedeur took a lot of sacks. That shows up on tape. That's real. And yes, he played in the Big 12, not the SEC. That's a valid evaluation point that matters when projecting to the NFL. Nobody's saying ignore those things, But here's what makes this situation feel different. Every prospect has questions. Every single one. Cam Ward played at Washington State and Miami. Travis Hunter, as elite as he is, played both ways, which raises legitimate durability concerns. There are potential red flags everywhere if you look hard enough. That's just how the draft works. But somehow when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, the spotlight feels different, stronger, sharper, more personal. It's not just, can he play? It turns into everything but football conversations. And at the exact same time, you've got guys like Ty Simpson getting boosted up draft boards with a fraction of the production. Less experience, more inconsistency, more development needed, but the energy around them is completely different. That's where things start to feel off, because now it's not just about evaluation anymore, it's about preference. And when preference starts ignoring documented production, that's when you have to pause and ask what's really driving the conversation. Let's strip it down to the absolute basics. Turn off the names. Ignore all the outside noise. Just look at the resume. Shedeur Sanders, more starts, more yards, higher completion percentage, more big game experience, more proven consistency over multiple seasons. That's not debatable. That's documented fact. If you did a blind comparison with no names attached, he wins that matchup easily. So if the football evaluation clearly points in one direction, but the conversation keeps trying to bend in another direction, then the resistance has to be coming from somewhere else. Maybe it's discomfort with Dayan's personality and how massive that spotlight is. Maybe it's skepticism about Colorado and whether that success actually translates. Maybe it's the confidence factor, where being poised and self-assured gets misread as arrogance. Or maybe, and this is where it gets genuinely uncomfortable, maybe some of it has nothing to do with football at all. Now let's be absolutely clear. Not everyone who prefers another quarterback is operating with bad intentions. That's not what this is about. But when the tape says one thing, when the statistics say one thing, when the resume clearly leans one direction, and yet the conversation keeps bending the opposite way, you have to ask questions. Because patterns don't lie. And what we've seen over the last several months is a very clear pattern of constantly moving the goalposts. One option falls off, another one gets hyped, that option fades, here comes a new name. And every single time, the standard changes just enough to avoid landing on the same conclusion. And now we're at the end of that road. Alabama's pro day just happened, and Andrew Barry didn't debate it. He didn't entertain it. He didn't even show up. That silence speaks louder than any report or rumor ever could. Because skipping that pro day wasn't just about Ty Simpson. It was the Browns cutting straight through all the noise and sending a clear, undeniable message. No more speculation, no more what-if conversations, no more chasing alternatives that don't make sense. We've done the evaluation, we've made our decision, and we're not interested. That's powerful, because this isn't social media debate anymore. This is real stakes. Andrew Barry is putting his job on the line with this pick. Todd Monken is tying his coaching future to this decision. Jimmy Haslam is investing another year of ownership into finally getting this right. That's pressure. That's careers. That's not the kind of situation where you guess, gamble, or chase upside that might not show up for 3 years. You go with what gives you the best chance to win now. You go with production. You go with experience. You go with someone who's already proven they can handle the spotlight. And everything, the tape, the stats, the organizational decisions, the actions that matter more than words, all of it points in one direction. And it's not toward Ty Simpson. So what happens next? The draft is April 24th. Cleveland is sitting at number 2. And unless something absolutely wild happens between now and then, it looks like the Tennessee Titans are going to take Travis Hunter with the first overall pick. Which means the Browns are about to be on the clock with a decision that, based on everything we've seen, isn't really a mystery anymore. Because after every player they ignored, every rumor they passed on, every pro day they skipped, that pick is Shedeur Sanders. And here's the reality that nobody on the anybody but Shedeur side wants to say out loud. They're out of options. Malik Willis didn't happen. Kyler Murray never moved. Anthony Richardson, no interest. The 2026 draft theory, completely unrealistic. Ty Simpson just got quietly shut down the moment Andrew Barry decided Tuscaloosa wasn't worth his time. There's nowhere left to pivot. That last hope just died in Alabama. And honestly, that might be exactly what this franchise needed. Because Cleveland has been stuck in quarterback purgatory for 25 years, 30 different starters since 1999. Most teams don't cycle through 30 quarterbacks in their entire history. Cleveland did it in a quarter century. That's exhausting. That's unstable. That's exactly why this moment matters so much. Because eventually, you have to stop overthinking it. You have to stop chasing maybe. You have to stop looking for perfect and just take a real swing. A quarterback with production, with experience, with traits that actually translate. And most importantly, someone you're willing to build around instead of constantly replacing. Half measures don't work. Projects don't work. Maybe he just needs the right system doesn't work. At some point, you stop experimenting and you go get a real answer. The Cleveland Browns are about to do exactly that. April 24th is coming. And when Roger Goodell steps up to that podium and announces the pick, all the arguments, all the alternatives, all the hesitation, none of it is going to matter anymore. The anybody but Shedeur crowd just ran out of time, and the debate is officially over.